Happy Tuesday, everyone. The Tuesday after Easter. We're still talking about Easter. We're talking about the glory of Easter. We're talking about what that empty tomb means for you and I. And if you didn't tune in yesterday, stop right now. This is a part 2. Forget this. Watch yesterday. Remember I talked to you about Ann Peter? That Easter, the power of God doing something amazing in our life is for every one of us that feels like we don't deserve it. We've already blown our opportunity. We've blown all of our chances. And the angel told the women, go tell the disciples and Peter, the one that rejected him, the one that betrayed him, the one that cursed him the very night, the very place Jesus was being persecuted. Oh, there's a special place in hell for people like Peter. And there's a special place in heaven for people like Peter. He's asked for by name. So when Peter finally shows up and hangs out with this risen Jesus, he's got to be wondering, what am I going to get, man? Oh, this isn't going to go good. Oh, man, does he know? Of course he knows he's the Son of God. Should I bring it up? Is he going to bring it up? I don't know what's going to happen right now. Oh, if God ever really got a hold of me. Oh, my gosh, if God got a hold of my life, what in the world is going to... Yeah, this one's for you, Foster. Man, if God ever got a hold of me, what would he... Man... And watch what happens when Jesus gets a hold of the guy. The guy that came back when Jesus needed a friend, when Jesus needed an ally, when Jesus was getting his back split open with the whip, punched in the face, mocked and spit on, the only one of his guys that came back just to curse him. Watch what Jesus does with this guy. John chapter 21. Jesus shows up. The disciples are all out fishing. They haven't caught anything. He said, throw your nets on the other side. When they do, they get so many fish they can't haul it in. John realizes this is Jesus. He takes his cloak, puts it on, and he jumps in the water and starts to swim ashore. In verse 9 in John 21, when the rest of the disciples landed, they saw a fire burning with coals there and fish on it and some bread. And Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish you've just caught. He just wants relationship. And Simon Peter climbed aboard and dragged the net ashore. It was full of very large fish, about 153. You know they're fishermen because they counted. But even with so many fish, the net was not torn. And Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. None of the disciples dared ask him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. And when they finished eating in verse 15, Jesus said to Simon, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than all of these? Well, yes, Lord. You know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my lambs. And again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? And he answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus said, take care of my sheep. And then a third time, Jesus said to Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was hurt when Jesus asked him a third time if he loved me. And he said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my sheep. See, Peter's wondering, when is this going to come out? When is the truth about me going to come out? What is Jesus going to do when he finally gets his hands on me? When he knows who I am and what I've done and who I've done and where I've been. But I was asked for by name. Somehow the cross covers even a guy like me. But man, when Jesus gets his hand on me. And when he shows up, Jesus just has a little fish bait going on the shore. He treats fishermen like fishermen. And when they're done with breakfast, he takes a little walk with Pete. Pete, I got a couple questions for you. Yeah, Lord, anything. You know, he's on his best behavior. He knows how bad he's blown it. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And that third time, Peter was hurt because he knew exactly what this was about. Oh, man, you know what I did, you know what I did, and you know what I did. I was wondering when this was going to come out. Jesus goes, so here's all I want you to do. Now I want you to feed my sheep. I got a role for you in the kingdom. I needed to have this little walk with you just to clear up, because the rest of your life you're going to be wondering, what about my past? What about what I've done? Who's going to know about it? I want you to know. I know about it. I know about it. I know about it. That's the glory of Easter. That's the power of an empty tomb. A God that says, look, I died on the cross to cover your sins, but I'm now going to walk with you and give you the power over guilt and shame. Every time, Chris, your past comes up and goes, do you remember this? Do you remember this? Do you remember 1991? Do you remember this? Do you remember this? Every time that comes up, I want you to grab it and go, yeah, not only do I remember it, but Jesus covered it. He knows about it, and I got a role in his kingdom. You don't walk in guilt. You don't walk in shame. Guilt is knowing you've done wrong, but after a while it becomes shame, knowing I'm wrong. Guilt is knowing I've broken something. Shame knows I'm brokenness. Guilt is knowing I've done bad. After a while, it becomes shame. I know that I'm bad. And Jesus goes, that ends right here on the beach. A risen Jesus says, okay, the cross forgave you, but the empty tomb frees you. I know it, I know it, I know it, and I got a plan for you. By the way, where do we get this story from? Peter. Peter's the one writing the book of Mark. Mark's the one writing it. It's Peter's memoirs. Peter's the one that tells us about that night. Peter's the one that tells us about his 3 times. Peter's the one that tells us about cursing Jesus. Why would you put that in your book? Oh, because I'm not just forgiven. The cross did that. The empty tomb freed me. A risen Jesus knows who I am, what I've done, where I've been, what I've gone, and he still loves me. He still hangs out and eats fish with me. And he's got a plan even for that story. That's the power of Easter. If you haven't tapped into that yet, you cannot miss tomorrow.